So why is it then that it is so much harder, according to St. Nicodemus the Hagirite, to get peace and victory at the sense gates in the world as opposed to in a monastery? Well, it should be fairly common sense, but if it's not, and there was things that I missed out of the previous video, that's why I'm making this one. So what does he say about all of this? He says this: in the monastery, you're fighting the devil from the trenches. You've dug a trench. There's stability, there's structure, there's a plan. In the world, very often, we're out on the front line. It's hand-to-hand combat with the devil. The other analogy he uses, so it's much more dangerous in that sense. You can get killed in the trenches, but out and about, when you go over the top, the proximity is much greater with the enemy. The other thing that he recognizes is, or the another analogy he uses is of the cliff edge. We're right on the cliff edge, and the demons come and make suggestions, our fallen flesh, the temptations, the stimulation at the sense gates. We're right on the edge. You're right on the edge. The slightest wee tug and you're gone. Whereas the monks have retreated back from the world. Have retreated back from the overstimulation at the sense gates. No Sky TV for them. No Netflix for them. No Facebook. No WhatsApp. No YouTube. At least certainly that's what it was for me when I was there. Most of these things weren't even around then. But even now, in a good monastery, that's what I would hope to see from, from most of the monks. I would find it hard to understand why anyone would still have these things, not to make judgment calls. Out in the world, we're right on the cliff edge, and so it's much easier to fall into real material sins of the flesh, to real problems at the sense gates. Not so in the world. If you think about it, it's almost like being a junkie, and we're all junkies for something, whether it's overspending in Amazon or eBay, to overindulgence of TV or porn or whatever it is. We've all got something in the world today, I think, that's working on overstimulation. Maybe it's overstimulation of the ego, but there's so many opportunities for that too in the world, isn't there? If you want accolades, mate, you're going to find them in the world. In a monastery, not so much, because they keep you in check. I remember when I was doing my studies in the monastery, they wouldn't even tell you what grades you got. It was pass or fail, And then eventually, when I was sent to Rome, they told they had to show me some of the results I'd got that were cracking. So I really put my heart and soul into it. But you're not getting that information otherwise. No way, Jose. In a monastery, often, well, that was the case for us. We're dying to all that. Pass or fail. Like, imagine being like a junkie or an alcoholic, and you've got the corner shop 2 doors down from you, next door, or even you live in the corner shop, you live in the off license where the alcohol's sold. Well, good luck, mate, with that plan of action. It's like, that's heroic. That's not easy. That's not the easy way to heaven. That's not the highway. Like, this is the easy way. I'm going to get there. This is the absolute disastrous way, designed only for the brave, the foolhardy, or those absolutely forced to walk that way. Exactly, painting the beauty of lay life, am I? But I think that's why monastics see it. It's such a privilege to be a monastic. Such a privilege to be able to give your life to God. And if you're young, unmarried, no kids on the scene, then hey, and you feel called to give your life to God, are you going to let this world embroil you in its tentacles, as it were. Of course, discern it with a spiritual father or mother, much prayer. Just remember what Saint Nicodemus says. It's my experience, having been in a monastic for 6 years, is out in a monastery in the middle of nowhere, you forget so many things. You're not seeing beautiful faces. You're not seeing lots of unfamiliar faces. We had very few visitors to us, and those that came were not typically interested in us. We're coming to see a family member, talk with them for the limited amount of time that was allowed for that. And we were kept busy from morning till night. We didn't have time to sit and chat. So we who live in the world, I think we make a choice. Either, okay, my life's going to be a revolving door of addiction, of falling and addiction, falling and pain and suffering, or I'm going to make a heroic break with all of that, but it's going to call for a level of asceticism that perhaps is unparalleled. And who am I to call that? I mean, it's for each person to ascertain it with their spiritual father or mother in their own heart and prayer. But it strikes me, I mean, there's a story with the Desert Fathers about how, there was a bishop when he was in the world. No, sorry, there was a Desert Father when he's in the world. The Desert Father, when he was living in the desert, he was quite a chilled monk. I mean, he wasn't known for great ascetical feats or long prayer or anything else. And then he gets made a bishop, and he's out and about, and he's receiving visits and giving visits and all the rest of it. And he suddenly becomes a giant of asceticism, a warrior for Christ. People say, what's the story? When you were a desert monk, you didn't do all this. Now that you live in live in luxury, relatively speaking, you're an animal of asceticism. What's the story? He said, then I didn't need it, now I do. So make of that what you will. And I read about Elder Joseph the Hesychast, the length he went to get cleaned up, to get pure, and the guy was already super pure for 21st century standards before he went anywhere near Mount Athos. When you see the length of his struggles, vigils, fastings, self-denial, rigor, how he overcame the demon of fornication, he says, you think, well, compared to that, what am I doing? No wonder things are the way they are. So maybe, some people are just naturally good, naturally untainted by this world. They're just given a grace. And I do see that. I see some people are just very good people. And obviously there's a swathe of folk who couldn't care less, really, going through the motions. And then there's those who have to live in the world, but also want to become saints, feel the call of holiness, sanctification, and know that that is necessary. Without holiness, no one will see God. And I think it's to those brothers and sisters that I offer these videos, sharing the ideas from books, from a bit of my own personal experience. Hallelujah. I'd rather have the pain of the battle than the pain of the fall, to kind of use St. Isaac the Syrian's turn of phrase. I'd rather have the pain and discomfort of the battle than the constant depression of the fall